Thank you all so much for joining us for the Learn Tourism Talks monthly webinar. My name is Sarah Benoit. I'm the lead instructor at Learn Tourism. We are a nonprofit academy that focuses on training and education inside of the travel, tourism, and hospitality space. And we especially work on a wide variety of online and in-person programs, including tourism ambassador programs, which is one of our main services. And we build a lot of different types of learning technology. And our team also speaks and teaches across the country throughout the year. So we are a team, or what I like to call a collective of nerds. And we love just learning every month about different things related to the work that we do, and especially learning about all the different destinations and places that we work with throughout the year. So we're so grateful to have everybody. I can see we've got folks from North Carolina and Kentucky and Oklahoma and Ohio, Pennsylvania, of course. Pennsylvania is represented today as part of our conversation, California, Texas. So again, feel free to hop in and introduce yourself and share where you are coming from today. One of the things I wanted to invite everyone to before we begin is this fall, we have an awesome virtual symposium coming up, and it's called Stewardship First, Responsible Tourism in Action. It's going to be a half-day educational program where we focus in on understanding what the different components of stewardship are. We have some great instructors, including our CEO, Stephen Ekstrom, who will be joining us, and an amazing instructor, Stephanie Emmerich, who will be coming from the Chicago region. And I hope you'll consider joining us and spending that half day just learning how we can all put stewardship first, focus more on building our communities. And since you are here for our webinar today, I'm dropping into the chat a discount code. You can get $15 off. And you can see here, you can break down the agenda, find out what the workshops are going to be about. There's 2 different types of tickets. So if you want the recordings and some other materials, you can pay the plus price. But feel free to reach out to me when you get my email on Friday with the recording and all the information about our amazing guests. If you have any questions, feel free to just email me directly. But I want to go ahead and introduce our panelists. I'm going to drop the virtual symposium link in the chat as well for you. So again, you can use that code LEARN for $15 off. But I'm so thrilled today to have a group of people that I was lucky enough to meet earlier this year and really get to see not only what they do and why they do it, but really see them in action doing it. And what I was most impressed by was just how incredible the relationships were that have been built in this content creator community up in Pennsylvania. And I felt like it was a really valuable thing to talk about and share with everyone, because I think as digital marketing and just marketing in general really shifts and changes, we're all sort of living through this massive shift in how we do things and where we do things, when we do things. I think one of the most important things that keeps rising to the top is that all marketing and promotions is really about relationships. And so the people that have really stood out to me over the last year are the people that really know that. And so they're building these long-term relationships that produce, I think, some of the coolest stories and the most exciting shareable stories that are going out. So I'm going to start just by running through and give you a quick introduction to everyone who is here today. First, I want to introduce Alex Knopsnyder. He's the Director of Public Relations at Go Laurel Highlands in Pennsylvania. And he's helped build a thriving community of travel content creators there who are authentically really sharing the region's stories. So Eric's a former journalist with more than 20 years of experience, and he brings a unique perspective on destination storytelling, relationship building, and public relations. And I think that focus on things that are sort of media and journalistically related, I think we're going to see that kind of storytelling really is going to be the way of the future. It's really the way now, but I think we're going to see it strengthen over time. We also have Alex Goodstein, better known as Alex Eats Too Much, which immediately attracted me to his content, and I started following right away. He's a Pittsburgh-based food and travel and events creator who helps audiences discover unique restaurants, destinations, and experiences throughout Pennsylvania and beyond. And he's really gotten into engaging video storytelling and authentic reviews and he's built a loyal community across multiple platforms. If you check him out online, you will find out right away that is true. And then we have Brittany Brown, who is the creator of Brit Around Town, a destination storytelling brand that's focused on uncovering people, culture, history, and local businesses that make small towns memorable. This is something Brittany and I immediately bonded on. I'm a huge small town traveler. I love going throughout rural America, so I really appreciated her passion for doing that and telling the stories of places that maybe people haven't been to before. She's also based in Pennsylvania. She partners with destinations that tell meaningful stories that are inspiring travel and strengthening community connections. So thank you again for being here, Brittany. And last but not least, we have Kim Debes. She's an outdoor creator behind the accounts Kim Hiked It, where she inspires people to explore hiking trails, scenic destinations, and hidden gems throughout authentic family-friendly adventures. And again, she's also based in Pennsylvania. She specializes in making the outdoors accessible while helping destinations connect with travelers that are seeking really genuine experiences. And I think Kim's perspective on how to go out into the world with your family is pretty awesome. She's become a pretty strong expert in helping you plan those trips and things like that. So again, I want to just say thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. For those of you who just joined, I want to remind you, you can put questions in the Q&A today. I will also monitor the chat throughout this. So if you can't get into the Q&A, just drop that question in the chat and I'll be paying attention. I hope that you'll take this opportunity to, ask different things that relate to where you are based or to the relationships you're building, and really utilize this today as a time to nerd out and learn new things. Because what I've really appreciated, like I said, is how unique this content creator group has been, how they're working together, how they're working with a destination to really tell stories across a long period of time and build a vibe that then when you go and experience the vibe, you want to keep going back, right? And I will just throw in too that these folks are part of a larger group. I've met some other folks that they're also working with. So it doesn't stop with just them. There's lots of different people that you can bring into this tent or under this umbrella to work together. So I want to start with my first opening question. And if you don't mind, Alex, I'll pick on you to start us off. But my first question is, when a destination reaches out to collaborate, what makes you feel excited to say yes? And we'll start with Alex and then we'll go around.
Sure. Thanks, Sarah. So what makes me most excited, since my brand is Alex Eats Too Much, is what can I eat? I mean, and that does play a lot into it, but it's also when a destination or a brand reaches out to me, some of the things that I really look for are, one, how excited are they also? So is there going to be this mutual excitement and agreement that we're both going to be building a story or a trip or whatever that's really going to be engaging with everybody? I think another one of the things I look at is also, what is their current presence online? I definitely get a lot more excited when a destination is already doing a lot on social media, or if they have a reason why they want to build up their social media. So just say maybe they just transition to a new account or something along those lines, and really working with them to build a story that will show them in their best light. And then, like I said, it kind of goes back to what can I do or what can I eat? So when a destination reaches out to me, and since I'm a very food-focused account, I want to look at what might be interesting or exciting in terms of what I can do or what I can eat in that destination. And I think through that, it really helps us build something that we can showcase together very well.
Awesome. And Brittany, you want to dive in?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is the stories that I'm going to hear and the communities that I'm going to get to discover. I love not only seeing everybody has their main attractions. I don't want to go and just see those main attractions. I want to see the farms that have been feeding the community for generations. I want to see the business owners who it was their dream to open this restaurant and now they're like a staple of the community. So it's the stories that go beyond the face value. I want to share all of that with the community. And I think those are the biggest stories that have yet to be told.
Kim, you want to jump in?
Yeah, a lot of the same, but I would say, obviously, I'm outdoor focused. There are certain destinations that reach out and it has some wow factor, and that's exciting. But I honestly get excited about any destination because there are outdoor spots everywhere. And I will cover all of them. When I go to a destination, I like to show those big attractions, but I also want to show the lesser known trails or a handicap accessible trail. So that's what I get excited about, is kind of diving into what are all of these places. And often it doesn't even happen until I get there that I fully can grasp everything. So a lot of it happens before, a lot of it happens after. Once I'm there, and you just figure out how to put this story together that has something that shows something for everybody that visits that area to do. So there are, I think that there is beauty in every place. So it's easy for me to find that, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think one thing that rings true of everything all three of you are saying is just how important it is that the destination you're working with, they don't kind of say, okay, you're here, good luck with that.
Right. Yeah.
So they actually say, all right, here's what we can help you uncover, or here's tips for how you can explore things, or here's some people we really think you should meet. Eric, I'm curious, as a destination with Go Laurel Highlands, what is it that gets you excited when you're talking to the content creators? Is there something where you're like, yep, this person is the right person to bring into our fold?
So first of all, exactly what you just said, just from the different angle, is whenever somebody reaches out to me, and we're at the point now where I get maybe not one a day, but I get content creators reaching out to me all the time wanting to come here. And of course, we have a limited budget that we can work with everybody. So I've got to kind of filter down. And the first thing I want to know is, are they a good fit? Because I get some content creators who reach out. It's like, you don't really, your brand isn't aligned with what we have here, what we do, all that. So that's an easy one to say no to. The ones that get me really excited are the ones who have put some time into it. And you can tell when they reach out, they know a little bit about the Laurel Highlands, and they say, hey, I want to come and I want to tell this story. I want to showcase this. When they do that, whenever they're looking at what we have here and how that aligns with them, that means a lot more than just somebody that says, I want to collaborate. You know, when I see that, it tells me they're thinking about a partnership and how we can benefit each other and not just a free trip to a destination. Those are the ones that you know are really good when they're looking at it from the angle of, hey, how do I fit into your destination?
And to build off that, we're going to start this next question with you, Eric, and then we're going to bring it back around. I'm curious, what do you think, from your perspective, destinations are often misunderstanding when it comes to building strong relationships with their content creators that will be more than one set of posts?
From a destination side, I think the biggest misunderstanding is only thinking about how it benefits us. You know, what you said about early in the session about how it's about relationships is, I never want to only benefit the Laurel Highlands whenever we bring in a creator. I want to make sure it's something that aligns with them and that it's helping them. They're getting something out of it as well. So it's not just the monetary value of what we're getting out of it. It might be what I'm providing to them. Yeah, if I can, I've got some money involved, but I also want to help them, whether that's introducing them to another destination or recommending them for an opportunity or helping them make a connection that expands that brand. And I like to think of that as travel karma. If I can help you, even when there's no immediate benefit for my destination, I believe that goodwill is eventually going to come back around. And we did a winter hangout a couple of years ago, and we had Michelle Granera from The Adventures Abound. And I learned that she had traveled extensively in Costa Rica. So 6 months, a year later, I saw that the BBC was looking for women who had solo traveled in Costa Rica. And so I immediately sent that to Michelle and I said, hey, I thought of you when I saw this. Had nothing to do with the Laurel Highlands, but I want the creators to know that I'm paying attention to them, what matters to them, and not merely what they can produce for us. And that's how a campaign becomes a relationship, and how that relationship really becomes part of a community.
Yeah. And Alex and Kim and Brittany, anybody want to hop in? Are there any other sort of misunderstandings or things? Go ahead, Brittany, things you think you could clarify?
So a lot of what Eric said is what I had planned to say on this topic. Some of my best relationships have been built from a partnership. So and there's a huge difference between working with a partner and getting all the deliverables to them, and then it's silence afterwards. It's when they keep reaching back out. introducing you to other people, I'm more willing to cut back costs if they need it, or come and help out for certain things if I have that relationship already built. They give me reasons to come back. And honestly, it becomes more authentic that way. Once I get to know the place better, it doesn't sound as salesy as like, okay, I'm here just to do this one thing this one time. Then I can really start speaking from the heart.
Awesome. Anybody else have something they want to add around just things you'd like to clarify with destinations, or things you think they're not quite understanding about your process?
I would add that it's okay to communicate with a creator if the answer is no. It's still worthwhile building a relationship with creators, even if you don't have a budget, or responding to, because a lot of messages, I mean, I think that's part of this whole process is we send out messages pitching ideas to destinations, and then most of them I'd say don't get a response. But I think it's okay to respond, and we appreciate that if there is a response that just says, hey, I don't think you're the right fit for this, or we don't have the budget for this, but we'd like to have a relationship, because then somewhere down the line things could happen that make sense, and it's just good to have those relationships.
Can I jump in real quick here, Sarah? The one thing I would say to any content creators out there is just because you don't hear back from me, don't assume that's a no, because usually if I know it's a no right away, those are the ones I'll respond to immediately and say, thanks, I appreciate it, or I don't really see a fit here. The ones that I don't answer are a lot of times the ones that I'm like, all right, I think I can figure out a way to fit this in, but then it gets lost in the email. So don't be afraid to follow up a week or two later and just say, hey, just wanted to check in again, because there are a lot of them that I'm like, I want to figure out how to make this work, but it just kind of falls through the cracks eventually. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out again if you don't hear back right away.
Anything else to add, Alex?
Yeah, so I think the one extra thing I was going to add to it was just also going on what everybody said. Yeah, keep reaching out, keep that communication open, because you don't know when something may build either with that destination or even with another destination. So I've had destinations actually pass me off to other destinations based on the fact that they didn't have a fit for me at the moment, but that other destination had a fit for me. But the opposite of that also is, I think, as a destination, if you are looking to partner with any content creator, what Eric said, it's make sure you have that right fit with that creator. So make sure that they're going to be telling the story that you want to tell, but also that creator is interested in telling that same story, making sure that they are going to be somebody that's going to show your destination in a great light. Don't just look at the things that are right there front and center, like the follower count or where they're based out of, or those type of things. It's go that next step or next level down and really see, is it the proper match that you want for telling your story?
That's awesome. I was going to say what you were talking about, Alex. I also think there's some cool things that we can do. And I know not everybody wants to use AI for the creative part of their work, but I have seen where using AI sometimes to really create and train the system to say, these are the things that are a good match for us. These are the types of creators we want to work with. And then being able to filter some of that information and the pitch that you get and really allow it to help you figure out those things, especially when you're getting lots of requests. That's been like one of the unique ways that I've been starting to use things so we can really, do what you're saying, that deeper dive sometimes that we don't have time for. How can we build that into the system so we have a way of evaluating like how to go to that deeper level and really documenting that? Because I think that can become an internal process that's really important, especially for small teams. And on that theme, I'm going to ask a few individual questions here. I want to turn to you, Brittany. I know, like I said, we sort of bonded on our love of smaller communities, rural communities, places maybe that don't always get the biggest PR and attention. And I know that you, like me, really love celebrating these places that haven't gotten to have a feature before, or maybe they feel like they don't have a lot to offer. For instance, I've been in a lot of smaller communities where they don't have a whole big number of attractions, a whole big food scene and all of this. And so they're like, we don't really have some stories to tell. Or they'll say, we don't have anything that interesting to say. It's like, do you have any tips for them on how they can really uncover and kind of shine a light into the places in their smaller communities and say, these are the stories that visitors are really interested in?
I think it's interesting because a lot of the times the DMOs are so close to the story and involved in it every day that they don't see the bigger picture of the story. So one of the things that has been really up and coming lately that really holds a special place in my heart is agritourism. I've seen a lot of people traveling to go to certain farms or farm to table restaurants and stuff like that because of how big that draw is currently, especially with the holidays coming up and Halloween and fall and all that. But one of the things that I love to do when I'm working with businesses, well, not businesses, but DMOs, is figure out what their idea is revolving it as well. So if they're like, I really want to get some eye on this town. So one of the ways I can approach it is either a overall reel of things to do in the town, place to eat, do an itinerary of sorts, or I highlight those places individually. So it all depends on what their vision is for this partnership and if I come back and continue on with it as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of times I feel like I'm like, everybody has a story. Don't feel like it's not true. It's really there because every single community has something unique and special about it.
And people are more likely to go support a business or an area if they know the story behind it. If they're like, oh, I've heard of this amazing success story or this person's dream, I want to go support them. So it's really important to tell those behind the scenes stories as well.
Awesome. And Kim, you focus mostly on outdoor experiences, and that's something that I think is incredibly popular. Where I live in Asheville, that's a huge part of our draw and something we do a lot of storytelling about. One of the things I think is unique about being in that space, sort of the outdoor space, the outdoor adventure kind of world, is it's really personal to a lot of people. It's not just like a story, it's like their passion in a lot of ways, right? The people who make the gear, the people who lead the tours, like the people that are maintaining the trails, our state and national parks. A lot of the people involved in that stuff, it's really personal. I'm curious, when we saw each other last, we talked a little bit about just that balance between responsible travel, stewardship, sustainability, and also promoting different places. Talk a little bit about that balance of like, how do we take care of these places we love, also promoting things at the same time? How are you approaching that?
Right. I think it's tough because when I started on social media, it was just with no intention of getting into tourism or anything. It was like I was going for hikes and I was sharing them. And then it grew. And then it becomes like, oh, wow, you see the effect that one post about one little place can have on that place that's not necessarily good. And that weighs on me. So then I'm like, okay, how can I keep doing this in a way that is responsible and helping to promote an area, but in a responsible way? And like I said, I don't follow the viral locations. I'm not concerned with those. And I think that I'm looking at it as I'm making content that's maybe helping people to think, oh, I can do that too. And I want to give them the information that helps them to feel comfortable taking that trip or taking that hike. And so I do provide a lot of information in my posts that will help them with. And I also am a believer in more of, and maybe this is my age bracket, but I'm more of a believer of modeling good behavior and following rules than lecturing people on it. Now I do insert that like leave no trace into my posts and all of that. But it's more like you're never going to see me promoting going off of a trail or standing at an overlook wearing a long dress and flip-flops, and that's not something that I would do. So I'm more of let's model the good behavior. But I think one thing that I think is if people are falling in love with these places and traveling to these places and seeing these places, they are more likely to want to take care of them as well. So that kind of balances it out in a sense. There's always going to be those travelers that don't take care of a place, but it's just more like trying to stick with giving as much information as I can and helping people to plan those trips to take with their families or on their own, either or, in a responsible and safe way.
Yeah. And I think too, that's something, at least for where I live in Western North Carolina, we really learned during the pandemic, right? When we had such an influx of people into our outdoor sort of spaces and amenities, there was like a few months where it was like, all right, everybody, we got to slow down here.
Yeah, right.
Like everybody's so bored and they're really motivated to get out there, but now we're overwhelming what's happening. And we had to like really sort of like swing the pendulum back and forth, I think, through 2020 and 2021 to figure that out. And it did bring a lot of our outdoor content creators together to say, how can we have some messaging, to your point, that isn't lecturing, but it's like, you fall in love with this place, how can we become better stewards of it? And I think that's something we're going to see continue as well. Awesome. Next, Alex, I'm curious, when it comes to, you focus mostly on food and events and some travel stuff. You've worked not just with destinations, but with businesses of different sizes. For you, when it comes to the things that you feel like are the most successful, because that's one thing that I was impressed by in our conversations earlier this year, is how you are continuing to keep quantifying the results for things. And you're looking at the different ways that you can, again, like say, here are our metrics of success. The things that are really doing well, or you're seeing real results from them, what made those partnerships so memorable, or what made them feel more like a relationship and more authentic than just transactional, like we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, one of the things that I do look at a lot, as you mentioned, are metrics. And sometimes, though, with partnerships, some metrics may just go out the window. I like to look at exactly how many times my content has been viewed, or the number of comments I'm getting, and the different things that are related to it, to really see how much engagement it's getting. And I've noticed with a lot of my partnerships where they feel more transactional versus something that is really authentic, it's when the brand wants it to seem like a commercial. So luckily, I haven't really had this problem with destinations, but I've had this problem with some bigger brands that I've worked with, where I'll pitch something to them and they'll go, oh, we like this idea. And then over multiple rounds of revisions and things like that, it just turns into a 30-second commercial, which really, it loses all of the authentic voice along those lines. And those never perform well. As I have two examples of where they had me cut tons of content out of it. They had me cut a lot of the talking straight to the camera type of stuff. They just wanted a lot of B-roll of the voiceover. And that doesn't always work all the time. I've noticed with destinations, it does work out a lot better, and it does feel a lot more authentic when the recommendations of where I go and what I cover fit within my brand or make sense for what I'm doing. And I'll use one more example of something that didn't work the best, but it worked out okay, was like, I was invited to a destination to focus on a specific food event that they were doing, except most of the restaurants they wanted me to visit weren't serving that specific item until the day of the event itself. So I couldn't really get a lot of coverage of that specific food item. So that it was like little logistical types of things there. I do find that the ones that do work the best is when they come up with a great itinerary, work with me directly also to make sure that things make sense, don't make sense, certain foods that maybe I already know I want to try to eat, and keep that communications line open, even at points maybe meeting with me while we're on the trip and talking through what the experience has been like. And then even after the trip, keeping those communications open. I'll use Eric as a great example of, we met, I think 3 years ago now, and we're still doing a lot of different things together in terms of content and thinking about new and different ways that we can tell different stories about the Laurel Highlands region. And it's authentic because I'm doing something different with it every time and showcasing what makes sense from my perspective for food, but also not just the food, but the whole destination throughout my stories.
Yeah, and I love that, because the whole point of this conversation today was to talk a little bit about going beyond influencing or influencers, and really talking about that long sort of relationship building that you do in order to tell a story in a few different ways. I think in a world where we're all able to get on the internet 24 hours a day and hear about every single place on planet Earth and why we should go there, it's really important to remember that one sort of transactional situation for one event, that can be helpful in some ways. But the truth is, your audience may need to see those stories multiple times, right? Not just one time. They need to be reminded that you loved this place. There needs to be some continuation of the conversation. And that's where I think a lot of people get stuck, is they want that immediate gratification And sometimes that occurs, but I feel like the immediate gratification of success is just, it's hard to achieve that in a world where we have so many options. And so we have to look at how we kind of repeat, come back, tell a different story, tell a new story. I think that's really the value of building relationships with content creators.
Right.
And getting to know them and really figuring out that match that's exactly right, because it opens up all that potential for the long term. Eric, that leads me to my question for you, because again, I've worked with Go Laurel Highlands for a few years now. You know, I'm a big fan of your team, and I think what you're doing out there is just really cool and always making a huge splash in the world. And I love it because I live in a rural area, and Go Laurel Highlands is a rural area. And yet I feel like you all approach things in a way that's just super unique and innovative in a lot of ways compared to other destinations that I've worked with, especially around content creation. So I'm wondering, when it comes to the idea of bringing content creators like Kim and Alex and Brittany and others together and really putting that work into the long-term relationships, instead of just thinking of it as one-time campaigns, like, how did that develop for your organization? Was that intentional from the beginning? Did it just evolve over time? Is it something that you're pulling in from your experience in public relations, which I think has a lot more focus on, you know, relationships historically? But what was the thing that inspired you all to go in that direction? And what do you feel like for your team and your destination has been the biggest benefit of that investment you're making in a community of creators?
Sarah, I wish I could tell you that this was a grand plan that I set out from the very beginning with and had the whole vision in mind. But the reality is we stumbled into it. When I joined Go Laurel Highlands 4 years ago, we had never really worked with what you would now consider a content creator. So this was all new. I came from the journalism world. At the beginning, I was like, what do you mean we're going to pay people to come here and tell people about our region? But then I realized that the benefit of it and how we could use that to our advantage. And one of the big things was, shortly into my time here, I went to a session in Happy Valley, part of Pennsylvania, a Hello Social group outing. And I believe all three of our panelists were at that one as well. And that's where I first met them. And so we didn't initially set out and say, yeah, we're definitely going to work together. But Kim is from the Laurel Highlands, and she was doing such a great job with the strong organic content that we couldn't help but notice what she was doing. Alex is from the Pittsburgh area, which we like to say we're Pittsburgh's backyard playground in the Laurel Highlands. So he was another one that made sense. And then Brittany was a little farther away. She's 4 or 5 hours away in the Philly area. But we all got together at a MAPRA event, which is the Mid-Atlantic Tourism Public Relations Alliance. They got to know each other really well. And Brittany actually reached out to me and said, hey, we want to get together at a destination, all of us that became friends there. Do you think you could make that happen in the Laurel Highlands? Sure, yeah. If you guys all want to come here, we'll show off everything we have. And it turned into an amazing outing, got all kinds of exposure. I think we had about 300 pieces of content, 1.1 million impressions, just all kinds of great numbers, 73,000 engagements. And it ended up winning an award from Public Relations Society of America's Pittsburgh chapter. Everything just kind of, I hate to use the term snowballed because it's really a pun on the winter hangout, but it really did. I mean, from there, we got to know each other. We got to understand each other. And then we just kept finding ways to work together again because it made sense, because they understood what we were coming from a destination standpoint. We understood that they were professional. They were easy to work with. They delivered quality content. And so it just kept making sense to say, hey, let's work together on this and let's work together on that. And so, yeah, I wish it was all planned out, but frankly, I got to give a lot of the credit to them because they came to me with the idea and they've really picked up the ball and run with it.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that, because you're giving a perfect lead into the next question I want to ask Kim and Alex and Brittany, which is, you know, that's what really struck me when I spent time with you all in the spring in the Go Laurel Highlands was, I think, in the world of influencers, especially, which we can all debate what these things mean. They're ever evolving. But in the world of influencers, which I think sometimes is a bit of a popularity contest, it's hard because those people don't always want to work together, right? They're, no, I want the destination to pay me, or no, I want the brand to pay me. So I'm going to sort of focus on myself and getting myself forward. And what I immediately noticed when we all spent time together was that is not what the three of you were doing or anybody else was doing in the room. You were all literally helping each other, giving each other ideas, recommending each other for different things. So I'm just curious to know, when you all have sort of built that community in your own state, like, what is it that inspired you to want to amplify each other's stories? How did those relationships develop? Again, was it intentional? Was it something that just happened?
I think our group works together very well. And I want to say that not everybody will be like this. There's certain creators who there's respect for everybody else, just like there would be in any job. If someone's taking a picture, you try not to be in their way, you try to give them their own area. But as you mentioned, a lot of the creator scene is very cutthroat. I know a lot of them who will not support you one bit. I had multiple who used me for collaborations, and then once as they surpassed me in followers, they blocked me and badmouthed me to people. And it's very cutthroat, and it shouldn't be like that, because honestly, when you do find those good creators, and it's usually the creators who are in it for the right reason. And I say, always vet your creators. You want to make sure that they're not in it for just a free trip, that they really do have their heart and soul in the right place. People can buy following and likes. You want to make sure all of their engagement is real and genuine. But when we work together very well. We learn tricks from each other. We help each other fix things that have gone wrong in the past. Hey, how can I do this different? We all have our own ways of doing things. Like, I focus on the story aspect. Alex is all food. Kim's outdoors. And we find ways to see the same thing different ways. And then sometimes we can even collaborate on a post, and that does things in itself too, analytically, where it opens it up to such a wide audience that it just does wonders for every single person involved. So really, it's so good when creators can work together, because what we can do is limitless when we're all together.
Awesome. Anything you all want to add? We got some questions coming in that I want to get to, but Kim or Alex, anything else you want to add about just building those relationships with your other fellow creators?
Yeah, I'll add one quick thing is, like, when building that relationship with other creators, it sometimes allows you to tell a different story or get your story in front of other people as well. And through that, you may find either other creators that you actually work with well or enjoy spending time with, or other people may find you that way. And I find that very valuable, not just on these destination trips, but even in doing things just locally in Pittsburgh. Anytime I get to work with somebody and we can actually work off of each other, it's a lot more fun. Sure, it's great to go and do something on my own and be able to film exactly what I want to film, but sometimes that spontaneous thing you do with somebody else ends up working really well too.
Awesome. So I'm going to start answering the questions that we've got coming up in the Q&A, and I'm going to sort of mix them around, but please feel free, if you have something to add, to let me know and jump in and share. This question I'm going to pitch to you, Eric, which is, as a content creator pitching to a destination, are media kits necessary, and what do destinations want to see in those media kits, or are there something else that they prefer now?
I think the media kits are a great resource. One thing I definitely want to see is, where are your audiences? Because geography matters a lot. For a destination like mine, we aren't a huge fly-in market. Most of our people are driving to us. So I want to target markets that are within probably a 6-hour drive of the Laurel Highlands. So I appreciate the fact that you're in LA and you have 1 million followers out there, but it's probably not going to help me, because they're really not realistically flying to us to get here because you did a video here. So I'm looking to work with people whose audiences correspond with the markets that we're targeting. So that's a huge part of it. And then, of course, most media kits won't list the price, because it's sometimes by buying a used car, you're going back and forth on, my manager said this and all that type of thing. So the two big things for me are, like, what who have you worked with? That would be a good one too to add in there. But mostly geographic markets, and realistically, what kind of price point are we looking at?
Awesome. Natalie, thanks so much for that question. Let me know if there's anything else you want to know about that. Beth's got a great question too. And actually, Kim and Brittany and Alex, I'll let you all just jump in if you want to share, because I think you'll all have slightly different perspectives maybe on this. But Beth is basically sharing for small DMOs that have kind of limited offerings, they have a limited budget. She's curious about like, what do you think is the best way to measure success of an influencer campaign, especially because their budget might only allow them to have, let's say, like one person come for one single campaign to start. She's curious about like, she knows impressions and engagement are important, but in a more rural destination or smaller destination, the stats might just be like smaller, right? We're not going to see New York stats coming out of a small town in Kentucky or New Hampshire, right? And so she's curious, when you're working with those smaller destinations, what is it that you're really trying to help them accomplish? And how does that justify them like putting that investment in, right? If that makes sense. Because again, I think in smaller communities, they have to justify the expense in a different way than destinations with larger budgets.
I would say that for that situation, you want to bring someone in who can create just very high quality content and be able to touch on everything you want to be shown in that content, so that you just have that content. You know, you may know that it's not going to get a super, super high reach, but you have quality content that you can then hopefully, like share and continue to use in some way and work out some kind of deal with a creator for usage so that you're able to use it in other ways, knowing that you're not necessarily getting that reach organically.
Awesome. Any other suggestions for the smaller organizations?
Yeah. So the other thing that came to mind for me was I worked with a destination earlier this year that they hired me specifically because they needed to show off the food in their area. So it was something they had never really done before. They had a specific need. And they had told me in the past that they were waiting for that time when they were ready to showcase something like that. So it's not just in the food aspect, but at any time, if you're a smaller destination, I think you want to hire or work with a content creator that makes the most sense for what you're trying to show off at that time. And then also when building that package of what's going to be created, making sure that it is something that maybe you get things that you need from it to be able to showcase later on too. So it may not just be me creating a video for that specific time or event, but also packaging in other content, other videos, other photos that you can use as a destination later on to be able to put on your own marketing, own social media, to be able to justify that cost a little bit more. I think that makes a lot more sense than maybe just bringing in somebody that's very broad and then not necessarily showcasing what you want shown for your destination.
Yeah, I love that specificity. I will just say high five on that. I think it's very valuable when you have a smaller budget.
And then also, in addition to content creator, I also am a social media manager. So I try to focus a lot on seeing what the DMOs, the businesses are looking for from that end as well. And I understand that the analytics might, all right, there's the marketing rule of 7, which is saying people need to see things 7 times before they will make a purchase. But since social media has become such a thing, it's really now the marketing rule of 60, because you're being hit by so many coffee shops, so many destinations, so many things in social media as you're scrolling. You really need to, if you have to hook somebody in, and then from our page, it's then they're more than likely going to go follow the business or the DMO. And then from there, it's up to you to keep that relationship going with them. So that is one thing too, is just make sure your own social media and your own pages are strong on that sense. And then in addition to what Alex and Kim were saying with those additional types of services, like the content that we can provide you to use, it's really just reaching out to the creators and keeping that open. I'm very willing to work within a destination's budget if it works for both of us. I'm willing to do big discounts, just whatever makes sense as long as it's mutually beneficial. So just never stop that conversation from going.
Awesome. So we've got one final question from Roshni, and Roshni, the question is great. I'm going to slightly alter it just because we're going to do a quick lightning round as we wrap up for answers to this. But it's a question from an actual content creator, which I thought was super important to include today. So Roshni's question is, if you're advising a creator who wants to turn their passion for travel into sort of a content creation, a career where they become a creator and they're actually out there telling those stories. The question was, what should they do over the next 6 to 12 months? But I think that would be a long conversation. So I'm going to say, from each of you, what do you think is their biggest first step towards moving in that direction? Or what is one thing you would advise them on right now as they're starting out?
I think just posting that, you're going to want to post consistently and create the content that is, going to be modeling like what you could do for a destination. So you want to be putting out that kind of content so that they can see what you're capable of.
So I would say, Roshni, come to the Laurel Highlands next week, and she's actually coming here next week. So. No, Roshni, I think you're on the right track. You've gained a lot of followers over the past year or two. And I think just being authentic to who you are and what you do, understanding your followers and what they're looking to you for is the most important thing. And I think you're well on your way to the kind of audience that you're looking for.
Yeah. So I was going to add really quickly, I think finding your voice through your content. So it's really making sure that what you're presenting or creating fits with you. And then taking it beyond that point to finding the business side of things, having a solid media kit, like making it very clear what you offer, what you do, examples of what maybe has worked in the past. And then last, and this is actually something I'm even still trying to improve on myself, even though I quit my job a year ago to do this, is better pitching. So it's really making sure that when you're pitching a destination, a brand, whoever, it's really understanding what you're offering, but also how you're going to meet a need that they have. So it goes beyond just saying, hey, I really love this destination, I'd like to work with you. It's saying what you would be providing in content that they may not have already, or something along those lines to say why they should want to work with you as well.
Awesome. And any last thoughts as we wrap up right now from Brittany?
I was just going to say in response to Roshni, don't lose your why. When you take something that you really love and you're very passionate about and it becomes your full-time job, don't lose the reason you started. You don't want to become a voice that you're paid to say. You want to be your own authentic person and tell things your own way. It's really difficult, especially when you're doing it for money, to not compare yourself to others, but just don't let it. Just be your own self and know that you have a lot to offer and just go from there.
Awesome. We're right at the top of the hour. I want to just say thank you so much to Eric and Alex and Kim and Brittany for joining me today. Roshni, I know you had one more question in there. We are out of time, but I'm going to shoot it to Eric so you all can continue that conversation when you get to the Laurel Highlands. I think he has a lot of insights. Not only does Eric work for a DMO, but he has also worked alongside many other DMOs. And so I think he can give you some real insight into digging deeper into what they're looking for. To everyone else, I just want to say thank you as usual for joining us for our Learn Tourism Talks webinar. I have again dropped our link into our virtual symposium that'll happen November 10th. Along with your discount code, I will send out the recording as well as a way to get in touch with all of our amazing content creators. And I just want to wrap up with one thought that I think comes through at the end of this conversation, which is, to me, content creators really are artists. It's really pouring in your creativity, your passion, the things that you love into your work. And to your point, Roshni, I think what they're touching on is that one of the first steps you can take is to really think about what is your personal brand going to be? How do you make that something that really motivates you and excites you, right? And something that really is authentic to you and to the things that you want to contribute to the world. I think that's something that we don't talk about enough, is that sort of the artistry behind what content creators are really doing at the end of the day. And I was so delighted to meet you all, to see the incredible work that you do. I loved watching all of you take different footage and then work on it later, and to see the collaboration was really inspiring. So thank you all so much for sharing your insights. People really appreciated it today. And thank you everyone for attending. I hope to see you in the future at another Learn Tourism Talks webinar, and have a great rest of your summer. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
good
Thank
day.
you.